Aerodrome Finance has been absolutely ripping over the past week, but I've kind of been holding off to make a video because there was one key level that I wanted to see it break to confirm that the breakout was actually on, and we have actually done it. So I wanted to talk about Aerodrome Finance today to discuss all of the different things that have been going on with it recently and some of the bullish news that I think could propel it to even higher heights, given that we have broken out of this key level. So look, we'll go on it, we'll talk about all of it, we'll look at it in comparison to some other different projects in the space, and what we could potentially realistically see coming from Aerodrome Finance based on some of the things that are shaking up. So we'll go on ahead, we'll talk about all of that. First off though, I wanted to start with talking about the crypto bubbles, because we can see here Aerodrome up 23% on the day. That is the largest within the top 100 coins, being followed closely by Athena, Pi, which is good to see because Pi has been actually doing quite poorly kind of compared to the rest of the market, and then also Tezos making another strong run as well. Tezos has also been looking quite nice. So, but as we can see, Aerodrome the moving and kind of leading the way here, up almost 50% in the past week. All of the gains over the past month and year have kind of been coming over the past week. So this is definitely a pretty unusual run for Aerodrome, but I think there's a lot of reason as to why it's happening. And to me, it makes a lot of sense. And we should kind of keep a pretty close eye on what's happening because this could just be getting started. So let's go ahead and take a look. First off, we have an X post here from Coinbase, then currently reposted and pinned by Base. You can see here millions of assets, one Coinbase app, every asset on Base, faster and easier access to on-chain trading. Tokens go from launch to available on Coinbase in moments. Now this is huge. Now this is not, of course, new news. This is just kind of like their marketing release of it. We've known about this for a while, but this is absolutely massive, right? Coinbase has 100 million users, and now essentially any coin that gets launched on Base will go to launched on Base to accessible to 100 million users almost instantly. This is completely insane. We've never seen this type of visibility or this type of access for people wanting to trade coins, and Base allows for that. And so in my opinion, I think we're going to be seeing a massive amount of movement shifting away from things like Solana and Sui and some of these others onto Base, because you have this captive audience of 100 million people looking for the next crypto to buy. I think as retail gets more involved, I could see a massive amount of this flowing through kind of the Base ecosystem. And so I think it's really, really important. And part of the reason why Aerodrome is so important is because Aerodrome is kind of like the main DEX on Base currently. And so this could be absolutely huge for Aerodrome if this whole Base play continues to take off. Aerodrome will be doing absolutely insane amounts of volume here, and so this is why I'm keeping such a close eye on Aerodrome, because of all of the volume and the movement that could be coming through it to Base. So really, really interesting to see. We'll have to keep a close eye on how this is starting to go. This has officially kicked off, and so it's a closed beta. It's starting to roll out, so we don't have this kind of going wide quite yet, but the initial kind of reaction to a lot of this is pretty positive. So we will have to see if that positivity continues and the traction and all that type of stuff continues. It's Coinbase, it's Base. I'm quite confident that it will, but again, it is crypto. You never know what's going to happen. And the other thing that I want to talk about is, like, is this just a short-term move? Is this something where we're going to see a quick move up and a quick move down? Could we be buying the top? Of course, we could always be buying the top, right? I have no idea where price is going to go next. But what I'm seeing here is a fundamental change in the structure of the market that is looking different from what we've seen in the past, which is why I want to talk about it today. First off, if we look at the ETH Bitcoin chart, we can see Ethereum has actually been really putting in some amazing structure relative to Bitcoin. As we can see, if we really, really zoom out, we can see that ETH has just been getting absolutely smashed by Bitcoin over the course of the past several years. If you look, this is both the longest and largest degree of magnitude that we have seen ETH kind of claw back relative to Bitcoin. And it's in a pretty substantial way. If you zoom back in and look here now, we can see the structure is super clean. We came here, we bottomed out, we kind of leveled for a little bit. We immediately shot up, had a little bit of consolidation within this range, kind of at this level of resistance, kind of the first key level of resistance we had to break. We broke it. We came up past this second level of resistance immediately, kind of did a little bit of consolidation at this third level of resistance, and boom, we're through it again. Who knows where we'll top out this time? Maybe we kind of run up into this range. We do have all three of these levels of resistances somewhat close together. So maybe, we get stopped at the first, maybe we make it all the way to the third and drop back to the third. Who knows? It's almost impossible to say for sure. What we can say though is we are back into overbought on the RSI, and we are overextended as it relates to the Bollinger Bands. So hard to say exactly how far this will run, but we may see a little bit of some cooling down here soon. Maybe we make it to this level of resistance and start to consolidate again, continue to hold the structure that we have been seeing. If we do that, I think that's totally fine. But mainly what we're seeing here, hopefully you could see that this is a fundamental change in the shift and in the structure. And I would say the best and kind of highest conviction layer 2 that I have on Ethereum is Base. I mean, it's backed by Coinbase. Which one would be better? Obviously there's a lot of different great layer 2s on Ethereum, but I just think that Base it stands above the rest. And so I think there needs to be special attention paid when we see this type of announcement. And so going into into Aerodrome's price specifically, we can see exactly kind of a pretty clear roadmap of where we get to previous all-time highs. Previous all-time highs sitting around $2.34. This happened back in December, kind of when we had that major run up from cryptos. And then of course, we had a super punishing sell-off where we saw it bottom out around 28 cents down here in April. Since then, we've seen some incredible structure, consistent higher highs, consistent higher lows. You can see it's a very, very strong structure. We did actually go through and break this really key level of resistance at the $1 mark. And this is what I've been talking about over the past several days, why I was kind of waiting to make an Aerodrome video, because I wanted to see if we could break through this level of resistance. You can see here we kind of sort of ish were rejected here back in June. We were rejected 2 or 3 different times here in July. And now we have officially broken, closed, retested, and held above this level of support. So this is a very, very good sign, and to me shows that Aerodrome is making a really strong and sustained comeback here. You can see this was held up by support several times kind of prior to breaking below back here in kind of that February time frame. So this should be a level of support that is respected somewhat well, and we will want to see this kind of, maybe we even can see it come back and do a little bit more of a long-term kind of break and retest. We can see here on the daily chart, this was just a wick, so it was a relatively short kind of retest back to the level of support. Maybe we see it come back and do a more sustained kind of level down here. I would say if you're looking, again, this is not financial advice. This is just me kind of laying out some of my own trades because I currently do not have an Aerodrome trade open. As we started to see this move, I kind of was like, well, we don't know, right? I'm always about trading when the kind of most profitable or highest reward to lowest possible risk would be. And when we see this run, potentially we make this run all the way up above the trend or the level of resistance, but there's also, as we've seen in the past, a very likely possibility that we get rejected by it. And so I didn't want to open a trade up here, so I currently don't have one open, and I am looking for an entry in here. I do own Aerodrome spot, but I do like to kind of make these types of trades on leverage as well, just because they usually can do quite well. So what I'm looking for particularly and personally myself, again, this is not financial advice, this is just me talking about things that I'm seeing and potentially looking at doing. The thing that I'm looking for specifically, I would probably have a first entry point at this $1 range, and then maybe a second entry point kind of following this trend line, because you see this trend line has been somewhat closely respected for the past, I guess 4 months at this point. So that's probably my trade of what I'm looking to do, is I'll look for a little bit of a retest on the support. If we see that bounce, then we will go through and I'll get a trade open, because I would expect we continue to see a move to the upside. If we go through, we don't bounce, we break through, then I'd probably be looking to open a trade here kind of along this trend line. And then of course, if it breaks through here, then we'd have, that's why you take stop losses on your trades. So anyway, that's kind of what I'm looking for specifically and tactically for an Aerodrome trade. Before we wrap this video up though, I did want to talk quite closely about kind of what we could see out of Aerodrome and why I am so bullish, and why I do think that it is very important to be paying incredibly close attention to Aerodrome Finance right now. First off, you can see here, this is of course the CoinGecko site. I'm viewing this in terms of market cap. We can see that the all-time high in terms of market cap is about 1.5 billion. We are just shy of 1 billion market cap right now. And so that would kind of in itself, if we were to return to all-time highs, get us about a 50% move to the upside. Now you'll notice all-time high in terms of price is $2.34, which is about double. But we have seen some dilution into the market. So the same level of market cap would actually be kind of in this like $1.60 range, which already is a pretty strong level of support. So I do think that this $1.60 range could be a quite difficult level of support to get through. Of course, we'd be needing to get through the $1.27 and then the all-time high in price. This is kind of like the all-time high in market cap. So just checking that out. That is kind of the first level that we could see is about a 50% move to the upside just to return to all-time highs. But of course, this is built on Ethereum. This is, Ethereum is doing really, really well. Ethereum is having its time in the sun. So let's look at some others and what we've seen all-time highs in market caps from some of these other projects. So first off, let's take a look at Uniswap. Of course, Uniswap was kind of like the DEX on Ethereum, particularly during that 2021 bull run. You can see that Uniswap went up and hit, what is this, like a $22 billion market cap at the peak of 2021 in that bull run. So an absolutely insane move. Now you might say, well, this was a DEX on the layer 1. They now have their own chain. They've got Unichain, all this type of stuff. Yes, but that's not what they had back in 2021. Back in 2021, they were purely just a DEX on the Ethereum chain, and that was it. Now, of course, you might say, well, Aerodrome is a layer 2 DEX, not a layer 1 DEX, so maybe there's some sort of discount there. You can make that decision. I'm not here to tell you, kind of what exactly the price prediction is going to be for Aerodrome. I think, maybe if we were to even chop this in half, that's still $11 billion market cap. That is 11x from where we are currently. And if we hit the highs that Uniswap saw back in 2021, we're looking at close to a 22x on Aerodrome from right now. So that's really important to understand, is that, this could only just be getting started. Now, again, you may say, well, it's a layer 2, some of this other stuff, Uniswap is different. Uniswap is still here. Sure. Okay. What about if we look at PancakeSwap? PancakeSwap here at its all-time high back in 2021 as well was hitting all-time highs very, very close to 7 billion, peaking out, if I can get it to focus here, about 6.75 billion was the peak. So again, that would be close to a 7x from where we are here on Aerodrome. So I think conservatively, we're looking at, kind of the 5 to 7x range, maybe more aggressively into the 20 to 30x if we start to apply a multiple, because crypto could potentially be hitting higher market caps and we have kind of those higher watermarks to hit at this point in the run. So I'm very much looking super, super closely here at Aerodrome. I do think that there could be a very, very strong and a very, very large room to run here for Aerodrome. I think that we could see some pretty crazy stuff. And I think the underlying and kind of the fundamental data kind of support some of this, right? I mean, ETH Bitcoin continues to strengthen. This is really good for the Ethereum ecosystem. We're seeing that Base and Coinbase are like really putting their weight behind this. There's a lot of stuff going on here that I think indicates some really, really good signs. So anyway, overall, hopefully you found the information in this video useful. If you did, of course, and you're looking to potentially accumulate some Aerodrome, you can do so on BTCC or BloFin, both of those in the link in the description below. I also do have that algorithm trading bot. If you are looking to get into that, that is also in the link in the description below as well. Hopefully you found the information in this video useful. If you did, of course, a like and a subscribe does help, but of course, whatever you want to do. Then you can also hit the notification bell if you are looking to be notified for when I release new videos to stay up to date with some of the things like Aerodrome that we've been talking about today. So if you are interested, of course, feel free to like, subscribe, all that type of stuff. If you have any comments, questions, concerns, thoughts, feelings, whatever, just drop those in the comment section as well. I do try to read and respond to all of those. So thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next one.